So this is the featured topic of this particular episode. Now, why the internet, you might ask? It's an interesting part. I think that today, internet has become such a utility that we can't do without it. Which brings me to the two most popular questions that I get asked a lot. The first one is, which internet service provider should I go for? So let's deal with that question first. Which internet service provider is the best? And which plans should you go for? Now, here in Malaysia, that is actually not a difficult question to answer. One of the very simple reasons is that, look, guys or girls, we really don't have much of a choice, do we? Right? If you look around, you're either stuck with TM and Unify, or you're stuck with Maxis. So what are the differences between the two? The plans are basically the same in terms of price. As you can see here, Maxis price plans are 189 ringgit for a 30 megabit plan. So what's the difference between that and TM? And here's TM's price. So TM costs about 10 ringgit more for the 30 megabit line. And so which one is better? To be honest, they're both about the same. It all boils down to which ones are servicing the area where you stay. For those of you staying in a condominium, however, you have an extra choice. If you're staying in a condominium that's covered by this particular provider, yes, Time, then Time has a very unique offer because their lowest entry point is 100 megabits, and that's 149 ringgit. So if you pay the equivalent 189 ringgit or 199 in the case of TM, Time will give you 300. We're talking 10 times the speed difference, 300. So if you're staying in a condominium, just go with Time. Let's examine some of the equipment that you get when you subscribe to the internet. First of all, you get a modem of some sort. One of the things that you get besides that is a router. For those of you who signed on with TM Unify about 7 years ago, 8 years ago, when it first started, you end up with something like this, right, with the two short antennas. And then subsequently, about 4 years ago, they started giving out this thing, like this. And if you compare the two, just the antenna difference. Those of you who subscribe to Maxis, you would have gotten one of these. And it's made by a company called Technicolor. Last but not least, if you subscribed to the internet recently from either TM or Time, you would have gotten one of these things. It's also made by D-Link. It's an upgraded router. Feels really light, and there are no external antennas. Now on to our second question, or on to the second question I get asked a lot. And this one's a bit tough. People always tell me that their internet sucks. You can go onto Facebook and you can go onto any one of the forums pertaining to that particular country, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand. You're bound to find some people who complain that the internet sucks. Now, what about the internet sucks? Now that's an interesting part of the question. As you ask these people, what exactly does the internet suck mean? You then have a variety of situations presented to you. And I group it into two main, or actually I call it three main subcategories. One of the few basic ones, the key ones that I always get as a feedback, is almost like 50% of all the complaints when it comes to my internet sucks, is I can't get internet somewhere in my house. It's the somewhere could be the bedroom, the study room, the room next door, or the floor upstairs, and believe it or not, the toilet. There are people who complain about internet not being able to reach their toilets. The second part to why my internet sucks is, why is it that I have signal, I have connection, but it just doesn't load, and it's like it's so slow. It's agonizingly slow. That's why they say the internet sucks. So where is this problem when people say my internet sucks? It's basically this thing, the router. Well, not exactly this one, but if you had one of these two, chances are you'd be resetting them on a daily basis. So let's first talk about why you can't get signal in some parts of your house. These things have very low power output. They were never designed for huge houses. And what do I mean by huge? Let's look at the typical house in Malaysia as an example. But for those of you watching from overseas, you could use your own guidelines. It's about the same. A typical layout in a condominium would be like this. It's about 1,100 square feet, right? And here's the part: the living room and the furthest bedroom is covered by 3 walls, or there are 3 walls in between. If you place the router in the living room, chances are you're not going to get anything more than 1 bar or 2 bars in your bedroom. And the downside of having 1 bar or 2 bar with one of these low-end routers is you're not going to be able to browse very fast because the connection speed is going to be very low, right? So this is the limiting factor. All the problems that you're having has to do with the router. Now, what I did was I put in a simple experiment just to share with you guys why it becomes an issue. Set up the router, which is this particular router, what most of you have. And basically what I did was, instead of browsing the internet, I moved my iTunes library from my computer to another computer. After a day or so, I decided I wanted to watch Netflix on my smart TV. And after about 2 or 3 minutes, this is what happened. Happening on the screen right now is that pain that we all feel. And is it because the internet is bad? Hey, look, quite frankly, that was the only device. The TV was the only device connected to the internet. I basically had a notebook transferring data from one to another. So the weak part of any router is the Wi-Fi. When people say my internet sucks, 9 out of 10 are referring to Wi-Fi. Look, these things have a limited number of band and the processor is not exactly the best. If you go out in the market, you won't find these on sale on shelves. And even if you do, it sells for what? 200, 300 ringgit? And some going as high as 2,000. So what's the difference? The difference is the processor in those are much more powerful than this. Now, why is it important, you might ask? Now, the reason that you're getting all of these bufferings is because this thing is not capable of handling the amount of traffic that it has to process for you. That's one of the problems. So it's a low processor unit. The other thing is, for those of you on Maxis, you've got one of these things. Come on, it's made by a guy called Technicolor. If you Google the internet or you go to a digital mall, you won't be able to find Technicolor on the shelves, honestly. This is bad. This is horrible. Now, in short, why you're having this issue is, number one, the processor on those routers that you've been given are not powerful enough to handle all that traffic. That's the first bit. They don't know. What Wi-Fi do you have on your device? Everybody knows they have Wi-Fi. Not many can tell you what Wi-Fi they have. So what does it mean by what Wi-Fi? There are different standards of Wi-Fi relating to different speeds. Right, so thank you guys for watching so far. I mean, I hope this has shed some light on why the internet is so bad for some of you. And it's not always the case that the internet is bad because of the provider. The internet is bad most of the time, 90% of the time, it's because of the router. Of course, if you have a service outage, then yeah, go ahead and blame the internet service provider. Right? So join us in the next episode. I'll shed more light on Wi-Fi technology and how to choose a router. I hope this has been interesting for you. And if you have any questions, hit us up below or drop us a mail. Right, cool. Thanks, guys. See you in the next episode. Bye.